Welcome to the Columbia City Christian Church's YouTube channel. My name is Brett Chapin. We're glad to have you here. The teacher of today's message is going to be Mike Love.
I'm going to preface this with, I will appreciate a little grace if I am not able to speak quite to the volume or the whatever that I need. I got a lot of pain going on in my back. It started last night, and so it makes it hard to breathe. So I would appreciate that and your prayers. Made it hard to sleep last night. Whew. All right. So, the last sermon we had, so long ago it seems, Paul had honed in on something that was dear to the Jews, something incredibly important to them, a part of their identity, namely circumcision. It was important to the Jews. To them, it was the outward act representing their heritage as God's chosen people. They took great pride in it, even though they really didn't understand what it was supposed to highlight. The Jews in Paul's time valued their piety or religiosity as a paramount aspect to their position in creation. Paul goes on to explain throughout chapter 2 that even if one is externally circumcised, but inwardly they ignore God's desires, they were pronounced uncircumcised. And if the Gentile gave up their love for the world, they would be pronounced circumcised. Good way to make a lot of Jews angry. Consider that God's chosen, no longer chosen, and the Gentile grafted in as his chosen people. And a lot of this, when we're thinking about it, it really does, like he was talking to Jews at the time that maybe were considering Christianity, or some that were Christians at a church, right, at the Roman church. Maybe they were unsure of what that all was supposed to mean now that you've got the old covenant, the new covenant. Maybe they were a little unsure. But the idea of the chosen people having to accept people who were not the chosen people, when for so long they were supposed to keep everyone out. There was a good reason for that, but they didn't understand it. So, I've titled today's sermon, A Critical Critique for the Critical Critic. It's a shame that Jack isn't here to see that. He'd probably laugh. Critical because it's important, but also there was a lot of judgment going on regarding Paul and regarding the church that he was really pushing, the good news that he was spreading, and also his ability to be critical of them. So they were critical of him because they believed that he believed a certain thing, which we'll find out a lot of it was fake. They were false fake news, so to speak. But also, he was going to show them, as he's been, that they're wrong, and he's going to be critical of how they do things. So we start with verse 1. Then what advantage has the Jew, or what is the benefit of circumcision? So he just went on a whole tirade about how circumcision, not circumcision, well, you're circumcised, but you're not really, because you're not really choosing to be God's people, or, there's a special place. And so he basically just beat down on the idea of being a Jew. And he is a prominent Jew, right? He was a Pharisee. It was important to him. And they knew that he was important in that way. But he begins to ask a series of questions that get to the heart of the matter. What is the point of being a Jew? Is there reason to consider that the so-called chosen people should be honored as such? Remember that they took great pride in that status. So when Paul, a Jew, asks a question, he doesn't leave us hanging. He answers the question, fortunately. He actually gives us a response to his own question. So he asks, what advantage? What benefit? Great in every respect. First of all, that they were entrusted with the oracles of God. Paul is saying, yes, there is much to appreciate about being God's chosen people. And the first thing is, God honored you by talking to you. He had a relationship with you. He spoke to you. He literally wrote you the how-to guide on worshiping him. He told you how to please him. He didn't tell everyone else that. He told you. You got that special information. Isn't that a special thing in itself? Doesn't that bring a good bit of honor to that you are Jewish, that you are a Jew? God chose to give the Jewish people his special revelation. So for anyone there who would be saying, well, then there's no point. What was the point all this time? Like, well, it was important. You got special revelation. He talked to you. He gave you the law. He gave you his instruction. Verse 3, what then? If some did not believe, their unbelief will not nullify the faithfulness of God, will it? I love that he asks questions and then he answers the questions. He asks a lot of questions in this passages that we're going over. So if those special recipients of his revelation and desires even then don't believe in him or don't trust in him, does that make God unfaithful? That's the question that would be asked. And we see that a lot. You might ask, does that mean we can't trust his decision making? Maybe he chose poorly, or maybe he chose them, but he couldn't seal the deal and make them understand, make them believe. Perhaps in that thought process, you can't even believe him when he speaks because, well, maybe it's not true. Maybe he doesn't have enough power. But he immediately answers it. May it never be. Rather, let God be found true, though every man be found a liar. As it is written, that you may be justified in your words and prevail when you are judged, from Psalms 51. So of course not. Paul says that even if every man or woman could be found as a liar, which we are, by the way, if you weren't aware of that, surprise, that doesn't change who he is. It doesn't affect his integrity. It doesn't affect the power. It doesn't affect his glory. And to bolster this, Paul refers to the words of the Jews' most beloved king, King David. In Psalm 51, David is broken and contrite, having been notified by Nathan of his failure with Bathsheba. He's praying for God to purify him, to wash away his sin, and that God is fully justified in passing judgment. He's saying, He can do whatever he wants. He's right in whatever he does here because I failed. I messed this up. It isn't God that failed to pick the right man for the job, but it was the man who failed to live up to God's standard. Paul builds on this going forward. You might also say, it isn't God that failed to pick the right people for the job, right, for the Jews, but it was the people who failed to live up to his standard. Romans 3, verse 5 and 6, but if our unrighteousness demonstrates the righteousness of God, what shall we say? The God who inflicts wrath is not unrighteous, is he? I am speaking in human terms. May it never be, for otherwise how will God judge the world? Paul is highlighting how mankind thinks in its depraved state. It's actually a pretty modern question, right? The atheist loves to go right for God's wrath as an example of why they can't believe it. So Paul answers that question with a question. If you haven't ever done that, there's certain people who might come to your door and say, will you listen to our thing? And there's two of them. Ask them questions. Just ask questions. Try and get them to think. So he asks this question, if God can't pass judgment with punishment when they're wrong, when they're sinful, how can he be the ultimate judge? How can he do that job if he can only have one of two options? So if one of those options is punishment for their sin, then that's the option. That's what he has to do. Otherwise, we couldn't make him the judge. We couldn't call him the judge. Verse 7, but if through my lie the truth of God abounded to his glory, why am I also still being judged as a sinner? So he's kind of using their argument still. He's trying to push against their argument. The New Living Translation, actually, this is all NASB that I usually go out of, but I found that the New Living Translation actually, which I don't always go too often, but it actually has a wonderful rewording of this verse that kind of helps, I think, us kind of process the question in a little bit of a different way. But someone might still argue, how can God condemn me as a sinner if my dishonesty highlights his truthfulness and brings him more glory? I'm doing God a favor. Look at what I'm doing. Yeah, I sinned. Look, it magnified him. By being a liar and living like a demon, right? That's good. We're going to get to the next verse because Paul, before I try to do anything else with that, Paul goes on because he's kind of on a roll. I picture this sort of him getting loud. If you were saying this out loud, he would be getting really loud. If you were writing it on his little parchment, he would be furiously scrawling it across because he's starting to pick up speed because he's getting excited. If you need a visual for that, just imagine if Brett or I were getting excited about something we're talking about, and we start to do this, get louder and louder, and that's us. That's what he's doing every day. Verse 8, and why not say, as we are slanderously reported, and as some affirm that we say, let us do evil that good may come. Their condemnation is just. Really, this is just a way to justify their sin, right? This is the argument is like, well, you know what? It was good that I sinned because that showed that God was gracious. It's just a way to justify sin. But we don't do that, right? We don't do that now. We never say things like, stupid job is working me like a dog, treating me like crap, I'm owed a little extra break time. Or I didn't really lie per se, I just stretched the truth and left a few things out. Or like a modern day Robin Hood, I can steal from the rich and give to the poor. It's okay if I steal from the rich person or company, and just as long as I'm giving it to others, I can give it to the church even, I could do that. That'd be a good thing, right? It's okay that I sin because good comes from it. This is the gossip going around, and it is gossip. So he says the slanderously reported, people affirm that we say, they're gossiping about what Paul is trying to preach and teach, about the Christian teachings. But Paul is saying that if anyone would teach something like the gossip going around, they would deserve to be condemned. He fights the argument by basically agreeing with the argument. It would be like in a comedy where the angry mob is like shouting at someone. They're like shouting at him. They're like yelling at Paul. And then they're yelling at his house, and they're like, oh, get out here, you do all this stuff. And then they stop, and then Paul's standing beside them. He's like, yeah, what they said. And they just all kind of look at him, and why are you It's like, I agree. That's worthy of condemnation. Yes, what you were saying is worthy of condemnation. Yes. I do not agree with it. It's wrong. Verse 9, what then? Are we, the Jews, better than they, the Gentiles? Not at all. For we have already charged that both Jews and Greeks are all under sin. Paul wants them to know that, yes, being a Jew is a precious blessing. It's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. He's not attacking the fact that they are a Jew. It's a good thing. There is honor in that. God honored them with that. God grew them up as a Jew. But Jew or Gentile, if you don't believe in him, follow his teachings, live by his tenets, you'll still be given a guilty verdict by the judge at the end. Doesn't matter which one you're in, which camp you fall in. And Paul knows he's talking to a proud people of the Scriptures. So, because they take pride in having the Scriptures, they've memorized the Scriptures. And what better way to show them that the Scriptures agree with him than to remind them what the Scriptures say? Verse 10, and I'll put in there where these verses are actually referencing from. This is actually he's pulling Scripture, and he's using it as part of his arguments. Starting in verse 10, as it is written, there is none righteous, not even one. There is none who understands. There is none who seeks for God. All have turned aside. Together they have become useless. There is none who does good. There is not even one, from Psalm 14. Because on our own, as we're made in our own sin, we cannot properly follow him or desire him. We cannot live by his standard. We have no ability to properly seek him in our own sin, because by ourselves we can't do it. If you're trying to do it on your own, you're failing, I'm sure of it, okay? You can't do that on your own. You need him to help you, to show you, what should I be praying about, God? What pleases you? What do you want from me in my life? How can I help other people? If you're not doing that, are you following him? Verse 13, their throat is an open grave. With their tongues they keep deceiving. The poison of asps is under their lips. I love his word picture. The throat is an open grave. Now, that could be some severe halitosis, sure, but I don't think it's talking about just the physical stench that's coming out of someone's mouth. It's more, when they open their mouth, it brings death. There's nothing alive out of what they're saying. With their tongues, they keep deceiving. They're constantly talking and saying things that aren't true. They're saying things that are a lie. The poison of asps is under their lips. Every word they say is some sort of an attack. It's a strike. It's a strike against someone else. It's poison. And what does that poison do? If you think about when an asp, when something bites, the venom goes in. Do they instantly die? No. Regardless of which kind of snake you might be talking about, whether it's a venom that breaks down all the tissues, or it's a venom that paralyzes, when does that person definitely die? When that venom gets to their heart. When that venom gets to their heart, it either paralyzes them or it breaks down the tissue and they die. So when you speak, what comes out? Is your mouth an open grave? Is there life in the words that you're saying? When you speak, is your tongue deceiving people? Do words of falsehood come out? God abhors, he hates lies. He hates deception. Are you deceiving? This goes right back into that second chapter when it said, you are a teacher of the law. Do you teach yourself? You say not to steal. Do you steal? You say not to commit adultery. Do you commit adultery? This is the same thing. He's going right back into this concept. The poison of asps is under your lips. When you speak to someone, is it a strike? Is it a strike? Is there venom behind those words? And that venom doesn't always work quickly. Sometimes it's slow. And that strike that you did sits and lingers with someone and builds. Someone does it to you and it builds. And over the next day or two, you're just like, I keep thinking about it. And the more I think about it, the more mad I get about it. Both of those from Psalm 5 and Psalm 140. He actually pulls it out of two places. Verse 14, whose mouth is full of cursing and bitterness. This one's really hard because we can justify this one a lot with ourselves. Cursing and bitterness. As much as I would love to say that cursing has to do with the language, words, if you're swearing, you're saying bad words, right? That's not what this is talking about. The word cursing here is actually the Greek word aras. And aras is more like if you were going to a temple for a sacrifice and then you prayed. When you pray for something. So you're desiring bad for someone else. Lord, let that person just really get it. Man, I hope they get it. You talk to other people and you're like, man, I really hope they get their due. That's cursing. And bitterness, when they speak, it's bitterness. There is nothing good. When they hear about someone, they hear a name pop up and instantly they're on fire. They're angry. They're like, that person, now I'm mad. And it's hard to let go. Bitterness doesn't just wash away. Bitterness has to slowly recede because once you let it in there, it's in there. It's like an oil. It just kind of covers you. So are you cursing people? When you open your mouth, are you cursing their existence, their life? Yes, there are enemies that we have. And yes, we can recognize that God is the ultimate judge and he will punish. And that's his job. That is his job. We don't need to help him with that. We don't need to help him know about it. He knows about that, okay? He wants us to talk good about someone. Does that mean to accept the falsehood, accept the angry thing they say, accept the bad things they're saying is okay? No. But to wish bad on them, you should be wishing good on them because it'll heap burning coals on their head. It'll just continuously get them. Not because you want to hurt them, but because it'll change their mind. It's like when you talk to your child and you say, don't touch the hot stove, please. Okay, fine. I'm going to let you feel some pain because I know that it's going to result in you not touching the hot stove. It's the same thing. Wish good upon them. It's hard, especially if it's someone that you're really struggling to forgive. Are you full of cursing? Is your mouth full of cursing? Is your mouth full of bitterness? Do you resent the people you're talking about? Do you find yourself in a gossip situation really bad where you're just like trashing someone? Are you trashing them out of bitterness? Are you trying to kill them with the curse? Maybe not physically. We'll see in the next. Verse 15, their feet are swift to shed blood. Destruction and misery are in their paths, and the path of peace have they not known. They are swift to shed blood. Out of Isaiah 59. They're swift to shed blood. Does that mean that they're going to try to attack someone physically and attack? Well, it could. They could go to stab them or hurt them or shoot them or do something like that. But that's not the only thing it's talking about. Their feet are swift. They're like, ooh, an opportunity to attack. I can socially attack that person and tear them down. We see this all the time. I can politically attack my political opponent. I can attack them in a way, and maybe it's not so true, but I can put that bug in someone's ear, and I can make it so that they see, I don't know if I like that person anymore, but for the wrong reasons. If they're bad, if they're evil, that's going to come out. They can't hide it. Their feet are swift to shed blood. They're quick to get to it as fast as they can. Destruction and misery are in their paths. Where they go, it is destruction behind them. Where they go, people feel miserable. Where they go breaks things down. They don't build up. It makes people feel worse, not better. When they enter the room, someone's fearful. When they enter the room, someone's like, I don't think I want to be here anymore. The path of peace. So the path of destruction and misery that they're walking through, the path of peace they have not known. They do not have peace. They aren't capable of feeling peace. And you can easily find yourself in this point. Do you find that you are quick to jump on board when someone's getting attacked because you just disagree? Are you quick? Do you find yourself quick to damage things? And when you walk out of the room, when you think about what happened 20 minutes ago, do you think about, wow, I really tore them down. I really caused a lot of destruction in my wake. And do you have any peace? Are you lacking peace? Philippians 4, 5-7 says, let your gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious for anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Don't be anxious about anything. Let your gentleness be evident. Are you gentle? Is that your normal is gentle? Doesn't mean you don't get excited about things, but are you gentle in how you approach situations? Do you get anxious about those situations? If so, pray, petition, thanksgiving. Thank you, God, for listening. Thank you for hearing me. Thank you for caring about me. Will you please help my heart understand? Will you please help me find what I need? Give me discernment. Give me wisdom to know what I need to do to change this, because I feel miserable because I never have any peace. I never have any peace. And every time I walk in a room, I can't seem to help but make the room destructive and miserable. Do you find yourself in that situation? Notice that it says, the peace of God will guard your hearts and your minds in Jesus Christ. His peace will guard your heart and mind. An opportunity for you to get worked up and angry, but you've prayed about it beforehand, and you're like, oh, Lord, this is starting up, and I need help. I don't think I need to leave, but I need help, and I need to. And then that time you walk in there, you start in the conversation, and you are the calmest person in the discussion. And they come at you, and you're just like, well, hold on, now let's think about that. And your words are smooth, and they are soft. They are gentle, full of gentleness. Going into our last verse, verse 18. There is no fear of God before their eyes. Psalm 36. We can have the same view as these Roman people, the Roman church. We can elevate ourselves above others. We can make excuses and justify our sin, as we do. We can claim to follow Jesus and his words, but we can fall into the exact same prideful pitfall and forget what it means to be a disciple of Christ. We can fall into the same thing that they did 2,000 years ago. We are saved. We are Christians. We are followers of God. That's a good thing. It's a wonderful thing. You're part of the family of a king, the king. You've been grafted into his family. That's a wonderful, wonderful thing. There's a little bit of pride in that. Not like an evil pride, but where like a father is proud of their son, or their son is proud of what their dad did when he beats alcoholism or something. He's proud of him. But we can also fall into it where we're like, well, we're the Christians. You don't know. Kick rocks. Go. Get out of here. Or you just can't understand. Go ahead. Get out. Is that our response? Or is our response, let me show you. Let me explain it to you. And they attack you. They slap you across the face. Do you offer them the other one? Is that your gentleness? You get worked up. Sometimes you need to defend yourself. Sometimes you need to just take the hit, right? But it's very easy for us to become so proud of who we are as God's people, as those Gentiles who have been grafted into his line. It's very easier for us to take that and go, well, look how good we are, you know? Especially if you've been a Christian for a long time, it can become very easy to fall into that and not realize it. So if you're talking to Christ about Christ to someone, and you think back on it and you're like, you know, I didn't really give them a very good message. That wasn't very loving. Like, I don't know, the whole time I was just arguing. I wasn't really trying to really change their heart. You know, maybe that's an indication. Maybe that's something you need to think about. Maybe it's something you need to pray about. If you're anxious about that, prayer and petition with thanksgiving. Thanks for the opportunity, Lord. I didn't do a very good job. I need to improve. And then get someone else involved. Find someone else that can help you. You'd be like, hey, I need help because I just messed this whole thing up. I had this whole argument that I made, and I don't think I did any good in that at all. And I just kind of left angry. Well, maybe let's try this next time. You need someone to talk to, someone to help be part of that discipleship. Close in prayer with me, please, Lord. Lord, please, thank you. First of all, thank you. In thanksgiving, we thank you that you have chosen to allow us in. You have chosen to make the good news available to all. And you would desire that not one single person would perish. Lord, allow our personalities not to get in the way. Allow our anger or resentment to be melted. Soften the heart that we have, where we've allowed some sort of stronghold. Break the stronghold and soften us. Give us wisdom, Lord, when we speak to others about your love, your redemption that you've given us. Help us to do it not to make an argument, but to change their lives and change their heart. Give us a desire, the same desire and love for other people that we have for you. And if that's not enough, then I pray, Lord, that our love for you would grow. Show us where our failures are, where our faults are. Bring us closer to you. Draw close to us as we try to draw close to you, Lord. And if there's a sin in our lives that is just eating us away and making us bitter, making us resentful, if there's something that we're having so much trouble letting it go, that when we walk in a room, people regret that we walked in the room. Lord, they should never regret that we walked in the room unless they're just angry that we're talking about Jesus. Give us that boldness to do that, even if we don't know a lot. Give us the wisdom to know what to say in the right moment. Give us discernment to have good theology about what we believe about you, what we know about you. Give us the ability to give an answer anytime someone asks it of us. Thank you so much for this day that we had, the people that got to hear your message. I pray, Lord, that it would change their heart in some way, even if it's a small change they make for the rest of the week. I pray, Lord, that whatever changes that people do in this, after this, that it would be something that could become permanent and it would become a normal part of their life. And I pray that we would all have a peace that passes understanding and that we would be gentle with how we approach unbelievers. I pray this in Jesus Christ's holy name and through his blood. Amen.
Thank you for watching this sermon. If you liked this sermon and you'd like to see similar sermons to it, check out this video here. Also, if you would like more of our content notifications, please subscribe and turn on the bell notification icon. Give us a like so that we can spread the good news of Jesus Christ. Thank you.